welcome to ADRRN Dialogues, where we bring you real stories from real communities living on the front lines of climate change. Across Asia, we have local organizations who are leading bold and practical solutions to challenges that these communities face every day. Now, this series is about their ideas, your experiences, and what the world can learn from them. So in this episode today, we are speaking with Suraj and Vijay from the Institute of Himalayan Risk Reduction, or IHRR, about their work in Nepal. Through the SAFER-Chaudhar project, IHRR has been building smart and accessible flood early response through community hydrometric monitoring. Welcome, Vijay and Suraj. Thank you so much for joining us today. So could you tell us a little bit about IHRR and what flood risk actually looks like in the district, in the municipality that you're working in? Who lives there, and what does a bad monsoon season mean for those families?
I have to talk about my institution, IHRR, Institute of Himalayan Risk Reduction. It's a research institute and that has been promoting innovations and science-based decision making in disaster risk and reduction. So it's been around 7 years or more that we are really working in the field of disaster risk reduction, especially in developing low-cost early warning systems. And by early warning system, I don't mean just working in the establishment of the equipments or so. So we generally work in 4 pillars of early warning systems. So it's start from the risk knowledge, understanding risks, and then monitoring it on a regular basis, and then disseminating it, communicating the risk info, and then again strengthening the preparedness and response. So we work on whole cycle. And we give a holistic solutions. And another important part that I have to mention, if in the history of Nepal, if you just look at the database, how people are being affected. So every year from the 50 years database, we can see that because of flood, there has been like more than 75 to 76 deaths every year. So earlier it used to be more than 90, but now we are slowly reducing the yearly fatalities. And over the past few years or maybe half a decade, we have had some significant improvements. That is possible because the country has invested a lot in the major river basins, and we have equipments pre-positioned, and then we have near real-time data information flow. There is telemetry systems, and then we get information. So Chaudhar Basin is a basin that ranges from very low flatlands to a bit high hills as well. And in terms of database, the region lacks proper hydrometric systems. There are very limited uh, data. So because of which it is very difficult to actually forecast the flood in such regions. And besides, this region also has the problem of flash flooding, so which is a bit different from the normal riverine flooding or maybe fluvial flooding. So over a very short period of time, that region gets a very high intense rain, and then followed by a huge number of inundations and then flooding in the region.
Thank you so much, Suraj, though, for explaining to us the backdrop of what the climate risk of flooding in this particular region of Nepal actually looks like. Vijay, if you'd like to add.
So I would like to add few things. We are working, like Suraj said, in the Chaudhar River Basin. So the most of the people in there are from Tharu ethnicity, and some of them are also most of the people are living in the flooding area. There are 5 wards administrative boundary. So the ward 1 and 2 are in the higher ground, so they are not mostly affected, but others 3 are affected by the Chaudhar River. So the main tributary in the area is Chaudhar River. So the municipality has developed a canal to divert the Chaudhar River. So the flooding is due to the breaching of that dam. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for explaining once the backdrop of what this region looks like and what monsoon looks like, and the contribution of development as we see it, the building construction of dams, and how that man-made risk kind of exacerbates the climate risk that we're facing today, especially in the Himalayas. Can we look at one of the terms now which is at the heart of your project? Who is a citizen scientist? And why does that particular framing matter rather than simply calling someone a volunteer or a community monitor or something like that?
So basically, people often use the term called last mile communities, but I generally prefer to call them as a first mile communities because they are the ones who actually deal with all those kind of problems. And we have been advancing in early warning systems. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology is contributing a lot in forecasting and so many other components. But when it comes down at the citizen level, so it is the most important part that we need to consider is how do those local people understand the information that is being generated by such authorities. For instance, the bulletin says it's going to be a heavy rainfall. So what actually the heavy rainfall means? They also say moderate rainfall, it might rain or it might not rain. There are so many such issues. I mean, such kind of information are there. And at the end of the day, the last mile communities or the first mile communities are unable to actually translate those information into their local context. So what we felt was on the only way we can change is by empowering those everyday individuals. So if we can actually align such everyday individuals into a scientific contributors, then it will not just help them in understanding or translating the risk, but also in the generation of the data. So for that term, what we envisioned was we collected the soda bottles that were being used, and then generally those kind of soda bottles were thrown away. So we just collected them, and based on our past research, we kind of modified that very soda bottles into a rain gauge. So by just looking at those rain gauges, people could actually tell, okay, the amount of rainfall in the past 24 hours was like 100 millimeters or more. So we had a heavy rain. And if it was like less than, it was around 20 millimeter, then they would call, okay, this is light rain. So by just looking at those instruments, they could actually talk about science. And it does not get limited over that only. Now, what does the local community do is they also record all those data and then send those data to the municipality. So by doing that, they are not just aware about the meteorological information, but also they contribute towards the data generation. And these days, after getting all those information, they are not just limiting those information into their household only. They are now also serving as a messenger to their community. So in that way, they are now evolving as a good communicator, good citizen scientist who can, by observing those instruments, who can actually understand science. So in that way, we are promoting them as citizen scientists. And citizen science it's not a new term. It has been there since ages, but the only thing is it needs a bit sustainable approaches so that these things can go ages. So this is something where we are trying to do some interventions.
Thank you so much, Suraj, for capturing beautifully how the role of a citizen scientist and how it's a two-way street for empowering them to first understand what the meteorological departments, the data that they are conveying, and then simultaneously also being able to gather their own data.
So the terminology citizen science is more effective than calling them volunteer or innovator, I think. So it gives them some kind of, they have some responsibility. They think that I am a citizen scientist, so I have to record this data. I have to disseminate the message to the community. So being a citizen scientist, it has more weight to the message they convey to the community.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think both of you have already elaborated a bit on this about how early warning systems are historically the domain of meteorological departments and government agencies, and by empowering citizen scientists, members of the community to translate, understand, and then work with that data, how they're able to contribute to the cause. What made you believe during this project the community in rural Nepal could be the center of that data collection and run its own systems?
Uh, if we talk about the early warning systems and how it can be functional. So there are so many understandings that are being developed over a period. So the first component is about being very end to end, right? So there are four pillars of the early warning systems, and each pillar needs to be connected end to end. And even if we have those end to end connection, again, the most important part that we need to consider is, have we kept people at the center or not? The early warning systems that we have designed, is it being really operational, or is it functional, or are the local communities or the first mile communities getting information about are they getting the correct information? Are they getting the timely information? So based on the challenges that they had in the past, we sat together, we did some participatory risk assessment, we did some transit work together. We identified the hotspots, what are the areas where they are facing such problems. And then we also did some scientific modelings based on the rainfall informations. And we did some kind of scientific modeling based on different return period or maybe the different scenarios. And then we went to the community, sat together with the community, and then validated the region. And then we had the good risk information. And often we see that the forecasters or maybe the hydromet agency provide one-way communication, and that seems to be a bit lacking. So the citizen science model that we adopted actually believes in some two-way communications. They also provide feedbacks from the field to the hydromet agencies about, okay, these are the things that we are noticing here. And they also follow the forecast information that is generated by the hydromet agencies. And in response to that, they also monitor the amount of rainfall that were collected over the past 24 hours. And not just that, they are also involving in the water level, like they are also monitoring water level with the help of gauze that has been installed in the rivers. So based on the amount of precipitation that was there in the upstream or in that region, the water level is changing in the river. So they are also developing some correlations between that. So this is a very interesting combination of science and community. And I believe such interactions and such contextual learnings, it's just not about learning from the textbooks. It's about learning from the experiences as well. So that's how they are like gathering or co-developing such kind of learnings, and then not just developing the learning but again applying it. So based on the amount of rainfall, if it's heavy rainfall, then they know these are the areas that gets inundated, so they will have an evacuation plan. They will have identified a region where they can quickly do some pre-positioning, or they also they also know that when they have the forecast information, the especially women, because in our country most of the in the rural settings, people often go outside for the employment opportunity. So back there are the women, and even women are also like understanding it, and then they are feeling the sense of responsibility. They are coming up with the microphones or maybe the speakers, loudspeakers. They are chanting all those forecast information within their communities, getting them aware or pre-informed. I believe BJZ also has some more information because he's also very much connected with the communities.
So the idea is to complement the data we receive from the hydrology Department of Hydrology and Meteorology. So they have very limited rainfall stations and river level stations. So to bridge that gap, are using the approach of citizen science to generate local data. So the information provided by the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology may not be relevant as it is in a larger scale. So we have to have the local level data and what are the impacts in the society. So we get the data from the locals community, and we analyze them, and we also capacitate them about the early warning systems and anticipate actions. So it is more effective. So we are using this approach.
Thank you so much. Just a couple of follow-up questions to what you've both shared right now. When you talk about collecting this data from the citizens, from the communities on the ground, how do you go about disseminating that information forward? And how does the collaboration with the Met Department work and the municipal agencies and organizations that are going to be part of this system. So, how do you go about consolidating and assimilating that data to make sure that it's reliable, trusted, and can be further shared with other communities that are facing similar risks?
I believe this is a very fundamental component to what we are actually implementing in the field, because we, as an institute, research institute, are actually complementing the roles, especially because the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology is the mandated agency to provide the official forecast and also the observation data. So we don't go beyond this scope. We actually uh, follow the because the national level hydromet agency is doing or maybe generating such kind of forecast at a very larger scales. And when we are talking about the very grassroots communities, or maybe at the pixel level, or maybe at the ward level, that level of information sometimes could be a bit underrepresentative, or it could be a very big overstatement as. So for this, we actually collaborate with the local municipality itself, because local municipality has its own mandate of communicating the risk information based on whatever that is available for that region. So the major goal that we see together is we actually kind of localize those kind of national forecast into a very local level, local scale. And it's not just about the forecast. What we are also now advocating is we need to go on the impact level. So whenever there is one level of forecast, then that level of forecast would actually bring some impact. So what could be those impacts? So the best beauty or the power of community, or maybe the participatory approach, is we can actually co-design those kind of approaches, identifying impact, and then also designing the local messages. What are the messages that would be actually benefited? Because every year Department of Hydrology and Meteorology sends around like 3 crore SMS, bulk SMS, right? Every year.
Right.
So
Right.
are those information actually understood by the locals regarding because we do have like more than 100 languages in Nepal, right? So there are so many ethnicities, there are so many cultural barriers and everything. So are those all information actually very contextual? So this is the point where we find some synergy. So that in that way, we work with the private sectors, we work with the government, we work with the communities, CDMCs, and then with the citizen scientists in actually translating those information into a very local scale, and then redesigning the messages that based on the human-centered design principles, and then finding the correct way of disseminating those information. So it could be simply with the help of the loudspeakers that are already there in the temples, in the churches, the mosques, or maybe some other institutions. Or it could be with the help of radio or FM jingles, or it could be with the because in Nepal we have local disaster management committee. So under that committee, we have like early warning task force. So people come up with the loudspeakers, they record their masses and then disseminate in their community. So that would also be the approach. Or we could also do SMS or IVR, interactive voice response. We are actually comparing the data that is being collected by citizen scientists versus automatic weather stations data, so that we could actually identify the discrepancies that exist between the CS data, citizen scientist data, and the standard data. So we have been doing it in so many areas, and we did some scientific modeling or analysis, and based on the analysis, the results are very good. R square is more than like 0.7, 0.8, depending upon the topography. So it's an indicator that will look for the relevancy of the data. So we also do some quality analysis of such data. If there is any impact or any disaster that's happening in the region, and if the citizen scientists report those data, then the municipality would actually verify whether those instances were there or not.
You've highlighted the importance of working with local government bodies, local municipalities to make sure that a project like this can connect the community with the meteorological departments to make sure that the results of and the impact of what we want to achieve here is being met. Can you share a little bit about if the authorities were, how open they were to collaborating on a project like this, and what kind of case did you have to make to get the support of the local authorities to ensure that this project was carried out?
Well, there's a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. So I believe these kind of things because we have been facing a number of recurrent events of flooding and inundations. The government, especially the local government, because they are very close to the citizens, and that's why they also have the mandate. And based on all these events that has like that had impacted in the region based on the historical timeline and also the impacts that we have witnessed, the local government is very open and is more than welcoming the stakeholders to actually complement, not just it's not about duplicating the effects that they have done, it's about complementing the works that they are doing. So they have actually identified the gaps in that region, and we communicate with the local authorities about fulfilling those gaps. So it's not like we come up with a complete our set of solutions. Actually, we sit with them, we co-design with them, and then based on the gaps and challenges that they have, we then design our activities. And this is something that we have done during this project as well. Because of the support from our ADRRN, especially this SIDRRA project regarding this SAFER-Chaudhar, we try to have some upstream and downstream linkages. So that is something we knew that there was a gap, and then we had those things designed in our project as well, so that we could actually breeze those gap or maybe eliminate them. So in that way, I believe this approach is actually complementing the local stakeholders.
Absolutely. I think you've highlighted the importance of connecting all of the stakeholders and the aspect of co-creation, which is very important to make sure that climate risks are appropriately managed and foreseen and dealt with in the long run. And coming back to the aspect of the citizen scientists, the communities on the ground, what was it like to approach these communities and, make them feel positively about partaking in a project like this, or looking at what would motivate them to participate, and how did the people take it?
So initially, the people were hesitant. So so it is kind of volunteer work. So uh, they are expecting some kind of uh, remuneration or cash or other benefits. So we didn't have much to give them. So we had to make them understand that it is for their own safety, and it will be used. Their data will be used for the disaster risk reduction and early warning system. So we also did a 2 days citizen scientist training where we sensitized them about our project and our objectives. The participants were also recommended from the wards. So we ask them to recommend who are able to uh, know who have done some volunteer work for in their community and who are active in the community. So we selected those kind of locals in the area, and it was very good participation. So 50% of them were females, and the our for the rainfall data collection, it only takes 2 to 3 minutes. So they only give their 2 to 3 minutes of their 24 hours for the safety of their whole community and their household.
So it is also a matter of recognition for them now. And we try to prioritize citizen scientists, especially from the region where they have a good or maybe high willingness to contribute in a long run. For example, it could be the Red Cross volunteers, or it could be the teachers, it could be the students, or it could be the schools or health institutions. And apart from that, there are so many young, especially students and other very interested group, women's group, agricultural group. They are very interested, and that gives them very relevant information as well. So because of which they are very participative, and they want to contribute to the society as well. So this has been a motivation factor, and time and often we also congratulate them with some social media appreciations and then certificates. So that also helps them pushing, and then they are into the system. So I think that's more important, and we are connecting it with the communities, the existing network, CDMC's network. So that makes this initiative more sustainable, and with very limited or maybe less cost or zero cost as well. Yeah, thank you.
Empowering every individual in a community, in the broader setting of a nation, of the world, is an important aspect of making sure that everybody is really doing their bit and motivated to do so also. So that's beautiful. Could you share some examples of any of the ideas that these community members came up with related to how they could go about the work?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I remember the incidents in the past as well, where Nepal had like around 624 millimeters of rainfall in just one day. That was a cloudburst. I also remember some of the cloudburst even from India. It was in Darali. I think it was in 2024, 2025. So such
Yes.
kind of extreme events are becoming very common these days. We are witnessing such events on a regular basis. So whenever it rains heavy, then citizen scientists actually, if they are in the house or if they are in the vicinity of the equipments, they just go to the equipment. They see it in the past 1 hour. The rainfall has been like 40 millimeters, 50 millimeters. So they are also providing some additional data as well, because due to which they are now actually understanding it. Because as time progressed, citizen scientists like they came up with the idea that, okay, if we can also like monitor whenever there's an intense rainfall happening in the region, they will just go outside and look at the equipment, and they would estimate, okay, this is the rainfall. And I also have some very wonderful story from citizen scientists who could actually predict the amount of rainfall by just seeing the kind of rainfall that's happening outside. Okay, this must be around this amount of rainfall in this period of time. So people are actually understanding it and relating it with their memory as well. So I think in that way they are coming up with this idea. And one more insight I like to recall is a few of the citizen scientists, we didn't tell them to actually prepare any graph or something like that, but they were very proactive. They prepared some graphs that plotted the data from past 7 days, and then based on that they said that, okay, in a week we had this amount of rainfall. So in that way, I mean, the kind of enthusiasm or maybe the interest the citizen scientists are coming up with, so they are providing some very interesting insights to us, and we are also like translating those information to them, that okay, if the citizen scientist from this region can provide us with the rainfall data, we can actually give an estimate of the rainfall in your ward. So such kind of, I mean, working from part to whole or such kind of approaches are also evolving.
Thank you so much for sharing these examples of how the system was genuinely tested out in real time, real emergencies that the communities were facing, and how proactively they were able to understand the context and step in and deliver on the outcomes that this project was targeted to fulfill. What do you feel is the one thing that you hope that this project could prove to the broader disaster risk community?
I believe this is a wonderful initiative, or maybe the advocacy that we are doing. And it has started from different corners of the country, especially in the areas where we have very limited data, or maybe in the under the data scarce conditions. So this is one of the model that would be actually implemented, where there are very less, or maybe in the area where there is no any meteorological stations or maybe hydrometeorological information. So I believe this is the first thing that I would like to mention, is the advocacy that we are doing. And the second part is the very fundamental part, is this is not a very high tech, or maybe it's not like sitting in an office and then doing all the things. It's very very deeply rooted in the communities. So we are talking about thinking global and then acting at local. So I believe this is one of the best example of doing very localized thing, and thinking for the global frameworks or maybe something like that. And the kind of analysis that we are doing from the citizen scientist data is actually providing a rationale to the hydromet agencies that, okay, these are the areas which are not in our radar, which does not have meteorological stations, but are getting a significant amount of rainfall. So the existing hydrometeorological stations gap, or maybe the area where we need to expand our system. So such kind of data information is also being communicated by this. And by implementing citizen science and these projects like this, we are also advocating and we are also aligning with the priority of early warning for all initiative. So it is not just about distributing the soda bottle or rain gauze to the people, but again acting in the four pillars of early warning system. So and another important part is the kind of work that we generally do at a very large spatial extent, or maybe at a very low resolution, or at a very maybe national scale or regional scale. But when we go down to the local scale, some of the forecasts, some of the risk information that we have generated at the bigger scale may not be that representative for the local context. There are so many factors that drive the local scenario. So this project also advocates that it is very important to understand the local context. The thresholds that we develop for an entire region may not be very representative for a given small scale. So I believe we have piloted these things in the hilly conditions, and now we are doing it in a flatlands, and then we are like coming up with different geographical experiences and coming up with such kind of evidences. And I believe these evidences generated will also definitely help towards better understanding of our region. And if I have to talk about the elevation of our country, I believe you are all aware. The country ranges from like 40 or 60 meters of elevations to 8,848.86 meters. And the distance of the variation of the elevation is merely 200 kilometers. So in
Right.
just 200 kilometer, we have this range, right? So it's very important that we understand this scenario and the concepts or the projects like this will help in proper understanding of these components. And I already said the four pillars of early warning systems, developing very localized, because in a country like us with multiple languages, it's very important that we localize all of this information so that these information are actually accessible to all kinds of people. So that, I mean, we should align with the approach that no one is left behind. So yeah, I would like to wrap up on this, but maybe if I missed anything or if you feel like adding something, Vijayji, please go forward.
So you have already said most of the things, and like yeah, we have uh, elevation difference within a municipality. So our project has also generated data that how the rainfall is distributed and which are the hotspot. So the municipality can act on it, and it has also created a platform that the local community can reach a municipality by a click. So they can send their data through a mobile application, and the municipality is able to visualize the data they provide in the web dashboard. So it has also linked the local community to the ward level and municipality level officials, so they can act quickly and reduce the damage in the area.
And another important part is it's about connecting, I mean, strengthening the existing systems, connecting different stakeholders, and aligning everyone with the common objective of saving lives and livelihoods, and also reducing the risks in the region. So that is the broader aspect that we envision to do.
Thank you so much, Surajji and Vijayji, for joining us on this episode of ADRRN Dialogues and for sharing the story behind the SAFER-Chaudhar project and the work that you're doing right now. I think this conversation highlights how disaster preparedness, specifically in this project, flood preparedness, doesn't always require expensive technology or highly centralized systems, but can also grow from community participation, collaboration, local and very individual ownership of the project, trust in people's knowledge and their capacities to step up and, as you said, save lives in their own communities. I think from training citizen scientists to connecting local monitoring systems and local authorities, municipal systems, your work highlights and offers a very important example of how very practical, even low cost solutions can strengthen resilience in very meaningful and scalable ways, not just in this specific geographic context, as you said, but even into different geographies, how it can be replicated and carried forward. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and insights today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I believe such kind of technologies, or maybe the practices, because it's not just about developing very high level innovations or maybe robust technologies. If we can just upscale these kind of practices in the multiple regions, because it does not, first of all, it's very economic. Second, it's very deeply rooted, or maybe locally rooted. So we can do it with the local communities. A third, community will come up with their own. I mean, they will be a part of the resilience building by themselves. So I believe such kind of initiatives needs a lot of attractions, because people are very much fascinated by the robust technologies or high cost technologies, but they generally undermine the power of citizens, or maybe the very locally led adaptations. So I believe these are the things that also need some prioritization and good highlights, so that we can actually replicate it in different geographies. So my only say for now is, let's also invest in the process to make something very functional, replicable, and then make sure that these kind of solutions not just I mean keeps I mean is done in silos, but is integrated, and then also the uptake is by the entire communities. So let's make a very holistic solutions, let's make it very implementable solution. Yeah, so this is what I just wanted to highlight. Thank you.
Absolutely. As the tagline of ADRRN goes, Asia, let's make it resilient.